Feng Shui can take you from poor to rich. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at 3 in the morning staring at the ceiling and feeling like you are swimming upstream in a river made of molasses? You feel like you are fighting a current that is determined to push you back no matter how hard you stroke or how desperately you kick. Or perhaps you have experienced that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach where it seems like money, opportunity, and luck are running away from you like a frightened deer in the woods every time you try to approach them. The harder you chase, the faster they run. Today I want to invite you into a radical shift in perspective, a fundamental reorientation of how you navigate the chaotic waters of existence. We are going to move from the exhausting paradigm of chasing to the magnetic paradigm of attracting. There is an ancient metaphysical law that has been whispered in the secret societies of the West and the philosophy schools of Greece for thousands of years. It says simply, you do not chase the butterflies with a net, you mend your garden, you plant the sweetest flowers, you build the strongest walls, and the butterflies will come to you. This applies to wealth, this applies to love, and this applies to the mysterious force we call destiny. The first pillar of this philosophy involves a difficult truth: you must know your fate in order to fight for your luck. This sounds contradictory to the modern ear, which likes to believe we can manifest anything instantly. But the Stoics, like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, understood the nuance. Fate is the hand of cards you are dealt the moment you are born. You did not choose your genetics. You did not choose the century of your birth. You did not choose your parents. That is fate. But luck is how masterfully you play the hand. We must understand that every single human being has a unique trajectory, a unique timeline that operates on a clock we cannot see. Do not waste your precious life energy trying to force your timeline to match someone else's. Do not try to change the trajectory of others, even your closest family members. You cannot wake someone who is pretending to be asleep, and you cannot force a flower to bloom by pulling on its petals with pliers. You will only destroy the flower. Let us look at the historical evidence of this timeline theory. Consider the life of Colonel Harlan Sanders, the founder of KFC. We see his face today on buckets of chicken all over the globe, a smiling grandfatherly figure. But do you know the darkness he walked through to get there? For the first 65 years of his life, he was by all conventional metrics a catastrophic failure. He tried to be a lawyer and failed after getting into a fistfight with his own client in the courtroom. He tried to run a steamboat company and failed. He tried to manufacture lamps and failed when the electric light bulb made his product obsolete. He drifted from job to job, broke, angry, and lost. At age 65, he was living alone in a roadside motel, broken, surviving on a Social Security check of $105 a month. He sat on his porch and contemplated suicide, thinking his life was entirely wasted. But he did not force the universe. In that silence, he remembered his mother's recipe. He didn't try to start a tech company. He didn't try to be something he wasn't. He leaned into his fate. He started frying chicken. At the age when most men are preparing to die, his luck activated. He built an empire. Or consider Winston Churchill. In the 1930s, he was a political outcast. They called those his wilderness years. He was isolated at his home in Chartwell, ignored by the British Parliament, mocked for his warnings about Hitler, and considered a washed-up relic of the Victorian age. He suffered from terrible depression, which he called his black dog. He wrote essays, painted pictures, and built brick walls in his garden. He felt like a failure. But destiny had not forgotten him. It was simply waiting for the clock to strike. When 1940 arrived and the Nazi war machine threatened to engulf Western civilization, the world didn't need a young, energetic politician. It needed an old, stubborn bulldog. It needed Churchill. If he had forced his way to power 10 years earlier, he would have been a mediocrity. By waiting for his fate, he became a legend. We can only recognize the limits of our container and then fill that container to the absolute brim. The second principle is the art of letting go, or the wisdom of sunk costs. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus famously stood by a river and said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." Yet we humans are obsessed with trying to freeze the river. We are obsessed with the past. We hold on to past business failures, past insults from old bosses, and past mistakes in relationships as if replaying them in our 4K mental cinema will somehow change the ending of the movie. Every time you open an old wound, every time you revisit a past trauma, you are walking through a door that leads to a brick wall. You are expending high-quality energy on a dead asset. In economics and game theory, this is known as the sunk cost fallacy. It is the irrational belief that because you have already invested time, money, or pain in something, you must continue to invest in it to make it worth it. You stay in a bad business because you've lost money in it. You stay in a toxic friendship because you've known them for 20 years. But the universe does not care about your sunk costs. The universe is a forward-looking engine. It only cares about your present vibration. Imagine your life is a car driving along a mountain road. On one side is a jagged cliff of regret, shame, and pain, the past. On the other side is a sweeping valley of possibility, hope, and beauty, the future. Where you focus your eyes determines where the car goes. If you keep looking at the cliff steering the car of your life while staring in the rearview mirror, you will eventually drive off the edge. You must physically and mentally turn your head. Look at the valley. Forgive yourself for not knowing then what you know now. Close the ledger on the bad debts of the past. Write them off to experience and stop paying interest on a loan you already defaulted on. The third principle is the power of strategic patience, or what I call the art of letting the bullet fly. In our modern hyper-connected, dopamine-addicted world, especially for the younger generation, patience is treated like a weakness. We want instant gratification. We want the crypto to moon today. We want the promotion tomorrow. We want the text back in 5 seconds. But real power, absolute power, lies in the pause. When a crisis hits, when a problem arises, do not react immediately. Do not let your lizard brain, the amygdala, hijack your higher consciousness. Let us look at the master of this art, the Roman general Fabius Maximus. The year was 217 BC. Hannibal, the Carthaginian genius, had crossed the Alps with his war elephants and annihilated the Roman legions at the Battle of Lake Trasimene. Rome was in a panic. The people were screaming for blood. They wanted a massive army to march out and crush Hannibal immediately. They wanted action. But Fabius, who was appointed dictator, understood something the mob did not. He knew that to fight Hannibal head-on in a pitched battle was suicide. Hannibal was a tactical genius on the open field. So Fabius adopted a strategy that was incredibly unpopular. He refused to fight. He followed Hannibal's army at a distance. He cut off their supply lines. He harassed their foraging parties. He watched from the hills. But he never committed to the big battle. The Roman people hated him. They mocked him. They called him "se undat," or which means the deal heir. They called him a coward. They said he was unmanly. Can you imagine the strength of character it takes to hold your ground when your entire country is calling you a coward? But Fabius held the line. He let the bullet fly. He waited for Hannibal's army to grow tired, hungry, and demoralized. He waited for the seasons to change. And eventually, because of his patience, Rome was saved. He defeated the greatest enemy Rome ever faced not by striking but by waiting. We need to apply the Fabian strategy to our own lives. When you receive a triggering email, do not reply for 24 hours. When you see a market crash, do not sell in a panic. When someone insults you, do not snap back. Be like a sniper, not a machine gunner. A machine gunner sprays bullets in panic hoping to hit something. A sniper lies still in the mud for days, slows his heart rate, controls his breathing, waits for the wind to die down, and fires one perfect shot. Observe the situation from multiple angles. Walk around the problem like a sculpture. Sleep on it. In the stillness, the true path reveals itself. There is a story of the great treatise on artist Michelangelo, who would stare at a huge block of Carrara, a marble, for days without touching it with his chisel. His assistants would ask him, "Master, why are you not working?" And he would say, "I am working harder than any of you, waiting for the statue to reveal itself so I can set it free." We need to cultivate that same stillness. Stop rushing to conclusions. Stop rushing to judgment. Let the dust settle so you can see the road ahead. This ability to sit with discomfort, to sit with the unknown, is the hallmark of true leadership and the foundation of enduring wealth. The fourth principle of this philosophy is the law of energetic alignment, or as we say in the esoteric circles, wealth must match worth. There is a dangerous misconception in modern society that wealth is something you get. In reality, wealth is something you hold. Many people scream that they want $1 million, but they have not built a psychological and energetic vessel capable of holding $1 million. If you pour a gallon of high-pressure water into a pint-sized paper cup, it will not only spill over, it will destroy the cup. This is why we see the tragic sociological phenomenon known as the lottery curse. Studies have shown that nearly 70% of lottery winners end up broke or worse within a few years of hitting the jackpot. These are people who were given the luck without the fate. They received the external resource without the internal infrastructure. They end up alienated from their families, addicted to drugs, targeted by scammers, and often dead by suicide. Why? Because their internal frequency was set to scarcity, and the sudden influx of abundance created a dissonance that tore their lives apart. Contrast this with someone like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs. Both of these men lost fortunes multiple times. Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he founded, and was exiled to the wilderness. Musk invested his entire PayPal fortune into Tesla and SpaceX, and in 2008, he was days away from bankruptcy, sleeping on friends' couches. But they always made it back. Why? Because they were the vessel. They had invested in their own capacity to solve problems, to endure stress, and to create value. They didn't just have money, they were money. I wake up every day not asking how can I make money, but how can I create value. I record videos, I write lessons, I solve problems. I am building the infrastructure of my own worth. Just as the violin virtuoso Paganini would practice for hours until his fingers bled, or the Roman orator Cicero would practice speaking with pebbles in his mouth to perfect his diction, you must be relentless in your self-improvement. Wealth is a byproduct of value. If you want to attract more, you must become more. You must expand your container so that when the rain comes, you can catch an ocean. This leads directly to the fifth principle, which is self-investment. Many people, especially those from humble backgrounds, view spending money on themselves as selfish or wasteful. They feel a pang of guilt for getting a massage, buying a tailored suit, or taking a trip to a museum. But you must understand that you are the primary asset. If the factory is broken, it cannot produce goods. If the golden goose is sick, it cannot lay eggs. When you are tired, When you are burnt out, when you look sloppy, you are emitting a frequency of scarcity and desperation. Opportunities run away from desperation like it is a contagious disease. But when you take care of yourself, when you get that massage, when you read that book, when you wear clothes that fit you perfectly, you are raising your vibration. You are telling the universe, I am valuable. I am worth it. This is what psychologists call the halo effect. When you walk into a job interview or a business meeting looking fresh, sharp, and radiating confidence, people subconsciously assume you are competent, trustworthy, and successful. They want to be around you. They want to hire you. As Coco Chanel, the legendary fashion designer who rose from an orphanage to rule Paris, famously said, dress like you are going to meet your worst enemy today. Always be prepared. A person who looks dragged through a hedge backwards repels luck. A person who glows with self-respect attracts it. Investment in your body and mind is the only investment that is guaranteed to pay dividends regardless of what the stock market does. The sixth principle is the wisdom of the middle way, or the golden mean, as Aristotle called it. In a world of extremes, we are often told that more is better. More food, more work, more friends, more stuff. The hustle culture tells us to grind 24/7, SDH, but the ancient wisdom says otherwise. The Taoists say that if you fill a cup to the brim, it will spill. If you sharpen a blade too much, it will snap. Eat until you are 80% full and you will live longer. This is the Japanese principle of Heier Hachibiyu practiced by the centenarians of Okinawa. Keep a small circle of true friends rather than a stadium of shallow acquaintances, and you will have deeper connections. Leave space in your calendar. Leave space in your stomach. Leave space in your mind. Energy needs a vacuum to flow into. If you are clogged with excess food, excess drama, and excess commitments, there is no room for new blessings to enter. By practicing restraint, by guarding your boundaries, you create a suction force that pulls fresh energy into your life. You are clearing the runway for the plane of destiny to land. The seventh principle is to heal your relationship with money. Stop staring at your bank account app 10 times a day with a knot in your stomach. That anxiety is a prayer for poverty. It is a signal to the universe that you do not trust it. It creates a constriction in the flow. The people who truly understand wealth hold it lightly. Look at Benjamin Franklin. He was one of the wealthiest men in early America, a successful printer and publisher. But he walked away from his business at the age of 42 to devote himself to science and public service. He didn't cling to the money. He viewed it as a ticket to freedom. Or think of Steve Jobs' famous commencement speech at Stanford, where he said, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about a state of mind, a lightness of being. When you are desperate for money, it controls you. When you view money as a tool, as a form of energy that circulates, it serves you. Earning money is just a means to live a life of freedom and creativity, not the end goal itself. When you release the death grip you have on your finance, circulation to resume. The eighth principle is generosity of spirit. Be big, be expansive. In Feng Shui, we talk about the importance of a wide open entrance hall to let the Kai flow in. The same applies to your personality. Be the person who reaches for the check at dinner. Be the person who tips the waitress well even when no one is looking. Be the person who connects others without asking for a referral fee. Look at the great American industrialists like Andrew Carnegie. Despite his ruthless business tactics, he understood the power of largesse. He gave away millions to build libraries because he understood that an open hand can receive but a closed fist cannot. This is not about being reckless with your money. It is about a mindset of abundance. It is saying to the world, I have enough. I am a source. When you operate from a place of I am a source, the universe rushes to replenish you. The ninth principle is stability over speed. We live in a cryptocurrency culture where everyone wants to get rich by Tuesday. But the most enduring fortunes are built on the principle of compound interest, which Albert Einstein supposedly called the eighth wonder of the world. Look at Warren Buffett again. His wealth didn't come from one lucky bet. It came from 50 years of boring, consistent decisions. He calls it the snowball effect. A small snowball rolling down a very long hill will eventually become an avalanche. Do not despise the slow days. Do not despise the small gains. Stability allows you to sleep at night. Stability allows you to weather the storms that wipe out the gamblers. A steady stream of water will cut through rock deeper than a sudden flash flood. The 10th principle is that health is wealth, literally. Studied successful people for decades, and I have found a direct correlation between their physical vitality and their financial luck. Your body is the antenna that receives the signals of opportunity. If your antenna is broken, if you are inflamed, tired, and toxic, you literally cannot tune into the frequency of success. Your gut health affects your mood affects your decisions affect your bank account. It is all connected. Psychoneurology is the science of how our thoughts affect our immune system. A positive, grateful, optimistic state of mind creates a biological environment where disease cannot thrive and where energy is abundant. Treat your body like a billion-dollar racehorse because it is the only vehicle you get for this ride. Finally, the 11th principle is the magic of language. In the Bible it says, "In the beginning was the Word." Words create worlds. Neuro-linguistic programming (NLP) teaches us that our language programs our brain. If you constantly say, "I'm broke, I'm tired, I'm unlucky," you are writing code for your biocomputer to execute those realities. You must become the guardian of your mouth. Speak only what you wish to become true. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," say, "How can I afford it?" Instead of saying, "I'm exhausted," say, "I'm recharging." Bless your problems for teaching you. Bless your bills for the services they provided. Bless your enemies for making you stronger. It sounds crazy, but it changes the energy field around you. When you speak with gratitude and power, reality bends to fit your description. Remember, money is not earned by labor alone. It is attracted by the person you become.